Hey guys, Willow here, back with week 2 of the Twitter tournament. Before we get into the tips from this week, I wanted to give you guys the leaderboard after week 1. So top in the list we have Jack, who managed a 15-8 winner in Baybridge and a 12-1 place with the Bowie legend in the Dewhurst, giving him plus 4.45 points. He's closely followed by Ryan, whose nap just a tenner bolted up at 5-2. He's on plus 4 points. The rest are a blank and they'll be looking for better this week. So best of luck to all 6 of you, and let's hope for some more winners.
Here we are, another week, another tip. We started off quite well last week with a first and second, but there's no time to dwell on that. There's still plenty of work to be done. Of course, we have Champions Day. Love to be tipping up something for Champions Day. I think Shushan's the idea of a banker, if you could say that, on the day, but I think he'll be going off around even money. So he's not going to be my nap of the day. And instead, I'll be switching codes, and it comes in the 210 and Market Rasen. It's going to be Martello Sky. Now, I've been a big fan of this mare. Hopefully, she'll be able to go off about 3-1. She was 8th in the Mares' Novices Hurdle last year. Was by no means disgraced. Won next time out at Cheltenham over 2 mile 4. She's only £4 higher than that day, and she run when fresh last year. So a lengthy break's not a problem, and I think she may be a little bit underestimated off this mark currently. So I think 3-1's an okay shout there on handicap debut. And the next best is going to come in the Welsh Champion Hurdle, 4.35 at Ffos Las. It's going to be Cormier. Hopefully he'll be able to go off around 15-2 as he is at the moment. But I've been a big fan of him on the flat. I think he's on a very winnable mark on the flat. And of course he was second in that Swinton Hurdle, which has worked out very well with Campron going on to win the Persian War. So hopefully he'll be able to run a big race. And that's just going to be a 1-point win on Cormier and a 2-point win on Martello Sky. So hopefully we can get back-to-back wins and hopefully line the pockets.
Hello, I'm going to try and find 2 bets this weekend that outrun last weekend's bets. We had a 5-2 nap winner there, but I'm hoping some bigger prices can really help me out this weekend. There's some good racing on. You've got Champions Day at Ascot as well, and the Ffos Las card is good with the Welsh Champion Hurdle being the feature there. But both of my bets are going to come from Stratford, and the first one is going to be in the 5.15, which is the final race on the card there, and it's going to be Sarceaux for Alexandra Dunn. Now, this horse was a French import, and she ran really well in some juvenile contests last year, finishing behind Stepney Causeway on one occasion. That horse is now rated, I think, 134-ish, and I think that form worked out really well, and there was a couple of other bits of form in there as well when she went to Cheltenham as well in juvenile handicap hurdle towards the end of the year, that her indoors one. She ran well there as well, but things just haven't gone to plan in handicap so far. And she's rated 96 here, and Paige Fuller's jocked up. I think she's one of the best female jockeys out there at the moment. So I think Sarceaux at opening price of 15-2 is more than fair. And I think a 2-point win there is going to be my bet. And my 1-point win bet is going to be in the 3.30 at Stratford. And that's going to be 1.47 for Nigel Twiston-Davis. Now, this horse again is another horse who's out of form, hence the big price. And I think just going fresh, back on good ground, over 2 mile 4, we could see the best out of this horse. He's been running over 3 miles last year and on soft ground, and neither of them suited. So I think back on good ground, over 2 mile 4, could really bring out the best in him. He wins fresh. He's won a couple of times fresh as well, including last year when beating Irish Prophecy. Now that form turned out to be good form, but wasn't franked by the winner of that race after that. And I think he's back to a winning mark now. He's going off 120 here, and he last won off 124, so he's £4 below that. Zach Baker's going to take off 3, and he's going to be my 1-point win selection. Good luck.
Alright guys, we go again for week 2 of this tipping competition. Close but no cigar last weekend, with Jeremy's Jew being the nap, beating a neck in the Mare's Maiden Hurdle at Ferryhouse. I'm still wondering how on earth she got beat, but that's the game. And we move forward into this weekend. Not great jumps action on Saturday, no jumps action in Ireland, so I'm already at a disadvantage. I'm going to preface all of this by saying, but starting off with the Welsh Champion Hurdle, that will be my nap, will come in this race. Cormier, 1 point each way for Brian Elson and Henry Brook. Has a likeable profile going into this race, won a couple of races on the flat this summer, having been second in the Swinton behind Copperless. When you look at that form, Copperless I think is a graded animal. who won the race by 8 lengths, but Comprand in third and Roland Ward in fourth have stacked the race up pretty nicely since. He's only gone up £3 for that effort. He's running off a mark of 133 and should be able to make his presence known with race fitness on his side. My next best for this weekend comes in the race before that, the really impressive Novices Handicap Chase. I'm going to take a chance on Pic D'orhy, who I know had a few unsuccessful goes over fences last year, but still mixed it with some decent enough horses and was running in good hurdle races come the end of last season. He also won a Betfair hurdle, you have to remember, around 18 months ago. So fingers crossed he can get his account up and running over fences. I'd like to take on the Skelton horses. I think plenty of Skeltons are needing the run at this time. So Pic D'orhy is the next best and Cormier is the nap in the Welsh Champion Hurdle.
Hi guys, Dan Overall here for week 2, and week 1 didn't go so well, and I have to admit week 2 I'm not massively confident. I think some of the races are incredibly tough, but we'll give it a go anyway. So here's the nap. It's going to be in the 505 at Ffos Las, and it's a rose is a rose is a rose. Consistent mare, ran a great deal in credit in some competitive bumpers and over hurdles, but I think the best might still yet to be to come over fences. Her 2 most recent starts were very eye-catching. She was third in a mare's novice chase, not beaten far behind rivals rated 130, 127, and she showed that was no fluke on her next run, and she was a very credible third in a listed handicap chase at Cheltenham, where she was running from £8 out of the handicap. So 2 runs in a row have shown quite a lot of promise. Her reappearance last month over hurdles was encouraging, and Katie Price noted on her social media that she will now be ready for mares chases in October. So back in calmer waters here, her 2 most recent efforts over fences suggest a mark of 102 probably isn't beyond her, while good ground also appears to suit. And in truth, it would be quite disappointing if she wasn't good enough to win what is quite a modest event, with Bard and Bella probably the danger from my perspective. Then on to the next best, we go to Stratford for the 330. Bit of a speculative one, it's going to be 147, which is going to be an each way bet. So looking at this race, most of the field are quite unreliable, and the conditions of the race just might set up quite nicely for 147, especially with Mr. Mafia unlikely to make the quick turnaround after winning the other day. So 147's last win came over a year ago from a £4 higher mark, and crucially that win came following a long break, and he also won that without his usual visor, and both of those factors are replicated here. And he also actually won this race itself in 2018 and 2019, while Nigel Twiston-Davies also won it in 2020, so he's going for the 4-timer here. Speaking of the trainer, Nigel Twiston-Davies has had 30% strike rate with his runners in handicap chases at Stratford since 2016, while the yard are in much better form compared to last season. There are some risks attached to this selection, but he's £4 below his last winning mark, and the conditions might just be about right for him.
Hello guys, Jake Price here, and my first selection comes in the 320 at Market Rasen, which is the Prelude handicap chase, and that's Senior Citizen. So this horse has some really nice form to his name, especially when fresh, because his record reads 1-2-1 after a break of 150 plus days. The second of those came in on Chase debut in January 2020, where he split the Big Bite, who's a 148 horse, and Caribbean Boy, who's a 150 horse off level weights, so obviously that's a nice effort. Last season, he opened his campaign with a victory in a novice chase at Newton Abbot, where he won by a neck in a really determined fashion, before he then went to Huntingdon in November, and he finished second behind Espoir de Rome. Now, he was trying to give Espoir de Rome £10 that day, so it was obviously a really good effort now that horse is rated in the 160s. So that's a nice piece of form as well. He then went to the Grand Sefton at Aintree in December, and he did disappoint, but the ground turned up soft, and he's really not a soft ground horse. So I think you can put a line through that, really. But he returned after 90 days to Newbury in March, and he finished really good 4th in the Grade 3 Great Wood Handicap. So this is a nice race. It was won by Umbrigado, who's a 149 horse. Killer Clown was second, he's a 140 horse. And the Big Bite was third, and he's a 148 horse. So obviously, it's you can tell by the form, running off of a mark of 134, he ran a really nice race. He was then a creditable third in the Topham at Aintree, which was his season target. He had no chance with the winner, Live, Love, Laugh. He obviously ran away with it from the front. But, he plugged on into third, and that was a solid effort. He was sent off favourite in Haydock in May, in a race where he did look like the best horse, and he probably should have won. But again, the ground came up soft. Connections also said he picked up a minor injury in the race, so I think you can just put a line for that completely. Tomorrow, though, He will be back on good ground at Market Rasen, which is obviously going to help him. It's crucial to him running a good race. And he's back down to that mark of 134, which saw him run so well at Newbury. So I think he's got a solid chance. Alan King won the race last year with FedEx. Connections are hopeful of a good race, and he will be my first selection. My second selection comes in the 505 at Ffos Las, and that's Rose is a Rose is a Rose. So I won't keep saying her name over and again. But this mare is 0 from 14 in her career, so obviously she's very hard to win with, but she won't get a better chance on Saturday, I'm pretty sure. Thought good enough to contest listed races as a bumper horse. She didn't really kick on over hurdles, but she did run a really creditable third on this very card last season, where she was behind Estelle Mabel, who's a 126 horse, but she also had Rose of Arcadia, who's a 120 horse behind her. So that was a nice piece of form. They continued over hurdles for a bit longer after that, but nothing ever happened. And instead, they gave her a wind-up in February and brought her back after a break. Well, she then ran a really nice race in a mare's nonsense chase at Warwick. So she was running off levels that day with a winner, who was Liberty Bella, who's a 127 horse. She was beaten about 8 lengths, but it was a decent effort second time up. But then she went to Cheltenham in April and contested their listed mares Nonsense handicap chase over 2.5 miles. And she managed to finish third and get black type. So she must be one of the lowest rated horses to ever get black type. But it was a decent race. She was 7 lengths behind Pink Legend, so that rival again, who's a 130 horse. She was 4.5 lengths behind Dance Idol, who's a 125 horse with Dan Skelton. She's pretty decent. And behind her, she had Early Morning Rain, who's a 129 horse. But she had to run £8 out of a handicap that day. She was rated 98, but she had to run off 106. So I think you can really upgrade that performance. And the handicap has been quite lenient in only raising her £4 to a mark of 102. She ran her seasonal reappearance last month at Warwick. She ran in a handicap hurdle. It was a decent little race, but she ran a really nice race because she just finished her race for once. You know, she went through with her effort, finished her race. She was beaten about 4 lengths by Is the Bar Open, who's a 117 horse and has been on a little bit of a streak. So I think that was a really nice opening effort. Back over fences, Tongue Tie Retained, that was on first time at Warwick. I think she can run a massive race in this really weak conditional jockey's mare's handicap.
Steve Ryder here, my week 2 selections. My nap and 2-point win selection is Adayar in the Champion Stakes at Ascot. It's a really interesting clash this year between him and Mishrith, who it's worth remembering was disappointing on soft ground here in this race last year. Adayar was an impressive winner of the Derby and then was equally impressive winning the King George, defeating Mishrith over 1.5 miles here earlier this season. Now he returned from injury to run a quite remarkable race in the Arc. Looked as if he had the race run 2 furlongs out with a brilliant turn of foot, kind of giving me the impression that this drop to 1 mile and 2 is exactly what he wants. He races keenly in his races, kind of proved that he was over his injury that he'd obviously suffered after the King George, and I do really think he'll be well backed, go off favourite and win this race. My next best selection is Alcohol Free Each Way in the QE2. She won the Coronation Stakes on heavy ground here at Royal Ascot, and then beat the boys in the Sussex Stakes, beating the recently retired Poetic Flare. They campaigned her next time over 1 mile and 2 in the Jubbont International. She just raced far too keenly, didn't get the trip. Back down to 1 mile, softer ground, back at Ascot, albeit obviously on the straight course this time. I really do think she's overpriced each way against the likes of Palace Pier and Baid.